Well, this fall we are seeking peace together. And I'm noticing that as we engage in this part of our theme that is about seeking peace with others, our stories always begin with conflict and the absence of peace. Today's Bible story, for example, may not be one you have heard before, mostly because it seems like really very little happens. A lot of wells, but that's it. Except that what's important about the story, I think, is exactly what doesn't happen. Several times in the story, there is opportunity for rage, for violent content. It's a story about Isaac, the promised son of Abraham and Sarah, but he's all grown up now, and he's done quite well for himself. This is a time in history when they're moving from a nomadic culture to an agricultural one, and Isaac has planted crops, and they have produced well. And he's accumulated a lot of livestock, and he's got a lot of staff to look after his livestock and his crops and his family. And it's a desert area, so he is fortunate that there are a number of wells on the area that he chooses to occupy. Although over the years of conflict, these wells have been filled in. So Isaac says, perfect, they've started, they're great. So Isaac digs them out because it seems like this land is going to be prosperous for him and it's a place he could call home. Well, except he doesn't seem to get along with his neighbors. And these days, getting along with your neighbors is a good thing, but it doesn't have to be the end of the world. You can coexist without speaking to each other, although it's better if you get along. It can be handy if your neighbors notice whether your garage door gets left up or if a package gets left on your steps. It is convenient if your neighbors are the kind you can build a fence together with rather than building a fence to keep them out. Still, you don't need to get along to live in a neighborhood in this community in this time. In ancient societies, it mattered a whole lot more. Having a good relationship with your neighbors kind of meant life or death. You relied on your neighbors for health and safety and working together through drought and storm. Your neighbors might be the source of seashells or fish or sharper knives or, particularly in these desert regions, water. Wells were often considered community property because water was essential for everyone's survival and everyone should have access to it. Well, in this Bible story, Isaac is targeted by his neighbors. Every time he digs up, this is on purpose. And we're not talking backhoe technology here. Digging wells took a long time and didn't always result in even finding water at the bottom. So this is a big deal that they are digging wells and filling them in and digging wells and filling them in. In fact, this story of Isaac takes place in the part of the world where historically we can trace the earliest water wars between ancient Sumerian states from approximately the same time frame as these biblical stories of Abraham. So it would not be surprising if this Bible story was about the start of a water war. It would not be surprising, in fact, if this story was told in response to the water wars that were happening in the world around them. And several times in this story, Isaac finds himself in a place where his right to water is challenged by his neighbors. And every time, Isaac responds in kind of the same way. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't protest, he doesn't argue, he doesn't fight. He simply says, "Oh, my bad," and moves on. We don't know what caused him to make that decision, whether that was a cultural thing. I don't think so, what with the water wars going on. And I noticed that Isaac had options. He did have the resources to be able to move on. So he had the resources to be able to say, oh, we're okay, we can keep moving. He wasn't dying of thirst, he didn't have nothing. He also seemed to carry with him a kind of mindset that suggested he wasn't worried about there being enough, that the land and the resources could provide for everyone. He just needed to find a spot. So he didn't have to stay in a location where he might be encroaching on the livelihood of others. Indeed, what if that's what the neighbors were upset about? Or it may have been jealousy. Or what if Isaac was setting up residency where he didn't belong, just claiming something that somebody else had been living on for a long time? What if he was claiming traditional lands without understanding? As with the crops he planted, there may have been reasons why Isaac's neighbors were so offended by his behavior. I was thinking about this path to peace and dealing with others and Isaac's behavior, and I was thinking about what we think about when we grow crops or when we grow gardens. I was thinking about this, what Thich Nhat Hanh wrote about planting lettuce. He said this: when you plant lettuce, if it does not grow well, you don't blame the lettuce. You look for reasons it's not doing well. It might need fertilizer or more water or less sun, but you never blame the lettuce. And yet, if we have problems with our friends or family, we blame the other person. But if we know how to take care of them, they will grow well like the lettuce. Blaming has no positive effect at all, nor does trying to persuade using reason or argument. That is my experience. No blame, no reasoning, no argument, just understanding. If you understand and you show that you understand, you can love, and the situation will change. I wonder if that is what Isaac is about in this story. When we read Isaac's story, we pay attention. We think, well, that's not fair to Isaac. That's not fair. But the story never says that Isaac thought it was unfair. We don't know who was in the right or whether anyone was in the right. I wonder if this story was trying to tell all of the people who were having water wars at the time, there might not be just one right. I appreciate that this story invites us to consider all the options. While there are in life times to resist and stand up and say that's not fair, I think we can learn from Isaac that there are some instances when the best response to conflict is to simply, well, as Elsa would say, let it go. To know that sometimes walking away or taking the loss is actually the wisest course of action, especially if you wish to preserve relationship. I think it was Abraham Lincoln who said, "Quarrel not at all. Yield larger things to which you can show no more than equal right, and yield lesser ones, though your position is clearly superior. Better give your path to a dog than be bitten by one contesting for what is right." And Bernard Eller said, "To stand and take violence without either returning it in kind or collapsing before it, this is a very difficult stance to maintain, and one that calls for strength of the highest order." I wonder if Isaac is showing us strength of the highest order. We don't really know what caused Isaac's neighbors, in fact, the king, to come around in the end, because there does come a point when Isaac is okay where he is. Did they just get tired of his persistence digging wells? They were tired of filling them in? Or did they appreciate his understanding and his moving to a place that was not occupied? Whatever it is, both sides find space for each other. Isaac stops naming wells with names like quarrel and starts calling them things like promise. I wonder what the last thing is that you fought over with a friend or a family member. How did you decide whether the argument truly mattered? How did you decide to settle the matter? Where was the place of understanding? We all know there are fights that no one wins. There are times when generosity and yielding are the most powerful responses. And sometimes we can be challenged to trust that there is, in fact, going to be room for all of us. Room for all those who would be us and them, rather than fighting for space and recognition and power. I wonder what would happen if we treated the world as truly a broad place, as Isaac notes, with room for all our differences, room for our questions, room for our confidence, room for our fear, room for our generosity, room for our joy, room for our grief, room for people like us, and room for people who are not like us. Room for people to dig their wells, even if they don't dig them the way we dig ours, or think that wells should be dug. There's a former television news anchor named Dan Harris who suffered a panic attack while he was on air delivering the news one time. And he set about after that to figure out how to get rid of his anxiety and live more peacefully towards himself and more peacefully towards others. And he said, if you're not a jerk towards yourself, you will find it is easier to be less of a jerk to others. And so he says you have to start with yourself when you're understanding how to be with others. And he has a couple of suggestions about how to train yourself in the skills of love. And I thought maybe you would try one of them with me. So to do that, you need to place your hand on your heart. And you need to talk to yourself like a good friend. I know if it seems all like kooky, whatever, just go with me. I'd like you to think of an easy person to like. Maybe it's your pet, so it doesn't have to be a person. Someone who is easy to like. Now call them into your mind, and I want you to wish them well with me. I want you to think with me, may you be happy, may you be safe, may you be healthy, may you live with ease. How's that feel to wish that someone those things? Now, as Dan would say, I'm going to pull a bait and switch on you. I want you to wish those things to yourself. As you've got your hand on your heart, I want you to say to yourself, may you be happy, may you be safe, may you be healthy, may you live with ease. Now call someone to mind that you admire. Someone you think highly of, someone maybe a mentor to you. Think about them. May you be happy, may you be safe, may you be healthy, may you live with ease. Now call to mind someone who is totally neutral to you. Totally neutral. Call them to mind and wish them well. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Now, can you think of someone it is hard to like? Someone who is difficult for you to understand, like Isaac's neighbors. Someone who you might be having trouble with. And let us wish them well. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Now let us offer this blessing to all beings everywhere. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Like a well of promise, may peace be with us. Amen and amen.